Tonight on PhenomenOdd, we're diving into spirit communication and the proven science that explains how anyone can do it. Get ready, this is a wild one. You know that feeling when you think of someone and they text you right after? Or when you just know something bad happened to a loved one before anyone calls? Most of us brush it off as coincidence. But what if it's not? What if the people we've lost can reach across the boundary between life and death? And what if quantum physics explains it all? Tonight we'll talk about quantum entanglement, the strangest phenomenon in physics, and how it is the mechanism that allows consciousness to persist and connect across space, time, and maybe even death itself. Tonight we're diving into a theory that bridges quantum mechanics and the paranormal. We're talking about cases where the dead have literally called their living loved ones, and the cutting-edge science that explains how it's possible. And we're asking a question that science has been avoiding for decades. What if death isn't the end of consciousness? Stay until the end. You will know how spirit communication actually works, and you'll have the tools to do it yourself. Oh, and please consider tapping that like and subscribe button. It really helps a small channel like mine. All right, let's begin. The cases that started it all. 2008. A family in the Midwest experienced something that shattered their understanding of reality. A woman named Lorraine Evans passed away peacefully in her sleep after a terminal illness. Her family mourned. They held a funeral. They tried to move forward. 2 weeks later, her daughter Sarah was at home when her phone rang. The caller ID showed her mother's name. Her hands shaking, Sarah answered. There was only silence. Then a faint whisper. She hung up in shock. When she checked the call log, something impossible stared back at her. The phone company had deactivated her mother's line the day after her death. No outgoing calls should have been possible, yet there it was, a call from a dead woman's number. But that wasn't the end. Over the next month, 13 more calls came through. 13 calls from a phone that didn't exist, each one lasting exactly 13 seconds. And each one was just silence, just presence. Like her mother was there on the other end, trying to reach across that impossible distance. Paranormal researchers examined the case. The phone company found no explanation. Skeptics called it a hoax. But the records were real. The mystery remained unsolved. Here's what's fascinating, though. Lorraine's case isn't unique. In 1994, a man named Charles Peck died in a train crash. His fiancée received 35 phone calls in the hours after his death. During 9/11, families reported receiving calls from loved ones in the towers, calls that came after those loved ones had already passed. These aren't stories from tabloids or paranormal websites. These are documented cases that have baffled investigators, phone companies, and scientists. There's even a name for this phenomenon, Instrumental Transcommunication, or ITC. It's the study of how the dead might communicate through electronic devices. And a researcher named Friedrich Jurgensen documented the first cases back in 1959. Since then, thousands of people have reported similar experiences. But here's the million-dollar question. How would this even be possible? How could consciousness exist after death? How could it interact with our phones, our electronics, our world? The answer might be hiding in one of the most bizarre theories in modern physics. Welcome to the quantum realm. Let's talk about quantum entanglement. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance, and for good reason. It's weird, it's counterintuitive, and it might be the key to everything. Here's the basic idea. In the quantum world, particles can become entangled. Once they're entangled, something extraordinary happens. They remain connected across any distance, completely separated, maybe on opposite ends of the universe, but connected, linked, instantly responsive to each other. When you measure one entangled particle, it immediately influences the other. It's not sending a signal. It's not using any known form of communication. Something deeper is at work. Einstein hated it. The idea violated everything classical physics stood for. But the evidence is overwhelming. Entanglement is real, and it's fundamental to how the universe works. Now here's where it gets interesting for our conversation. Modern physicists, including the legendary Roger Penrose and Stuart Hameroff, have proposed that consciousness itself might be a quantum phenomenon. Not just metaphorically, actually literally. They theorize that in the microtubules, tiny structures inside our neurons, quantum processes are occurring that generate our conscious experience. And if consciousness is quantum in nature, then it wouldn't be confined to classical physics. Think about that for a moment. If consciousness operates at the quantum level, if quantum particles can remain entangled and connected regardless of distance or separation, then what happens when a person dies? What if the quantum information that comprises consciousness doesn't just disappear? What if it transitions into a different state? What some physicists call a quantum field, and remains entangled with those we loved while alive. In 2022, a team of neuroscientists and quantum physicists proposed exactly this. They published research suggesting that consciousness might not be entirely confined to the physical brain, but instead, part of a vast quantum field that exists beyond what we currently understand. As one researcher stated, death is not the end, it's merely a transition. Consciousness doesn't disappear, it simply shifts into another state of existence. It's not mainstream science, but it's coming from credible researchers at prestigious institutions. And if consciousness is a quantum field, if we are all connected at the deepest level through quantum entanglement, then why couldn't that connection persist after death? Why couldn't someone who is entangled with you, emotionally bonded, deeply connected, reach across that boundary and try to communicate? We're all made of quantum stuff. Here's something that should blow your mind. You are literally made of quantum particles. Every atom in your body, every electron, every photon of light contained in your consciousness, they're all quantum objects. And follow the rules of quantum mechanics. In the quantum world, particles don't exist in single states. They exist in superposition. Multiple states at once, until they're observed or measured. And particles that have ever been in contact or entangled remain mysteriously connected, even when separated by vast distances. If we accept that consciousness is a process emerging from quantum interactions in the brain, then consciousness itself would have these properties. It would be non-local. It would be connected. It would transcend distance and time in ways that classical physics cannot explain. Dr. Diane Hennessy Powell, neuroscientist studying consciousness, has researched the potential for telepathic connection between living people. Her work suggests that consciousness may not be confined to individual brains, but rather that minds could be entangled with each other, similar to entangled particles. If that's true among the living, what prevents it from being true between the living and the dead? A researcher named Dean Radin, who serves as chief scientist at the Institute of Noetic Sciences, has spent decades documenting what he calls psi phenomena, telepathy, precognition, and other seemingly impossible abilities. His rigorous studies show that these phenomena are real, statistically significant, and reproducible. He argues that consciousness is fundamentally non-local, and that the quantum field might be the mechanism allowing for these connections. If we exist within a quantum field of consciousness that connects all things, then we're never truly separated from those we love, even in death. That's not mysticism. That's what the mathematics of quantum mechanics is starting to suggest. The consciousness spike at death. Here's something that changed how we think about death itself. In 2023, researchers at the University of Louisville made a discovery that made headlines in the scientific community. They found that a few seconds after clinical death, when the heart stops and the brain supposedly goes dark, something incredible happens. Brain signals light up. There's a massive surge of electrical activity, specifically gamma wave activity. Gamma waves are the fastest brain waves we know of, associated with heightened awareness, memory, and consciousness. It's like the brain is firing on all cylinders right at the moment of death. This contradicts everything we thought we knew. Death isn't like a light switch flipping off. It's more like a transition, a moment of extraordinary awareness. Patients who've been revived from clinical death often report the same thing: a sudden clarity, a hyperconscious state, a feeling of expanded awareness. They describe it as more real than normal life, not less. Dr. Sam Parnia, leading researcher in consciousness and near-death experiences, has found that this surge of brain activity corresponds to lucid, hyperconscious recalled experiences people report having as they transition from life to death. He's careful to say this is early research, but it suggests something profound. Consciousness might not end at death. It might transform. If consciousness is indeed a quantum phenomenon, and if it's experiencing a surge of activity at the moment of death, then that consciousness is being released. It's being freed from the constraints of the physical brain. And if it's been entangled with the consciousness of loved ones still living, then suddenly in that moment of release, it might have the ability to reach back and communicate. Why would phone calls come through? Why electronics? Because consciousness operating in a quantum field would likely interact most easily with other quantum systems. Electronics are full of quantum processes, electrons flowing through circuits, radio waves traveling through space. Phones are devices designed to transmit signals. What if consciousness could momentarily hijack those signals? And what if in the chaos and intensity of that moment of death, a quantum consciousness could imprint itself onto the quantum substrate of technology? The pieces fit together. Think about everything we've discussed. 1. We have documented cases of phone calls from the dead, not hundreds of cases, not isolated incidents. Thousands of documented reports from credible witnesses. 2. We have quantum entanglement, a proven phenomenon showing that particles remain mysteriously connected across any distance. 3. We have leading neuroscientists proposing that consciousness is a quantum process occurring in the brain's microtubules. 4. We have research suggesting consciousness might be part of a broader quantum field, non-local and non-physical. 5. We have evidence of extraordinary brain activity at the moment of death, suggesting a surge of consciousness rather than an ending. 6. We have physicists like Roger Penrose proposing that consciousness might transcend physical death through quantum processes. These aren't separate mysteries, they might be pieces of the same puzzle. If consciousness is quantum, then it's entangled. If it's entangled, it's never truly separate from what it's been connected to. If it persists after death in a quantum field, then it exists everywhere and nowhere simultaneously, non-local, existing in superposition. And in those moments after death, when that consciousness experiences that surge of awareness, maybe, just maybe, it finds a way to reach back. A phone call lasting exactly 13 seconds. A message that sounds like static and whispers. A presence on the other end of the line. Not a violation of the laws of physics, but an expression of those laws in a way we haven't yet learned to understand. What does it mean? This is true. If consciousness persists after death through quantum entanglement, the implications are staggering. It means death isn't the end. It means we remain connected to those we love even after they pass. It means the grief we feel when someone passes isn't an illusion. It's a recognition of a connection. That's real at the deepest level of physics. It means that maybe, just maybe, our loved ones aren't gone. They're just shifted into a different state of existence. And in moments of quantum possibility, when the barriers between states are thin, they might find a way to let us know they're still there. Scientists like Dr. Janice Amatuzio, a forensic pathologist, have documented thousands of extraordinary experiences from people at the moment of death. They're not hallucinations. They're not chemical fluke. They might be genuine moments of consciousness transitioning into something beyond our current understanding. Well, yes, there will be skeptics. There will be people who say this is pseudoscience, that it's wishful thinking, that it violates the rules of physics. But it doesn't. Quantum entanglement doesn't violate physics. It reveals that physics is far stranger than we thought. And Einstein, who fought against entanglement his entire life, was ultimately proven wrong. The universe is weird. The universe is connected in ways that defy classical intuition. The next time you feel a sudden urge to call someone you love, or the next time you feel a connection with someone across great distance, you might be experiencing quantum entanglement. You might be experiencing the non-local nature of consciousness. And the next time someone tells you they received a strange call from a dead loved one, don't dismiss them. They might be telling you about the most profound scientific discovery of our time, that consciousness transcends death, that we remain connected, and that love itself might be the strongest force of entanglement in the universe. We are all made of quantum stuff, and we are all connected. And maybe, just maybe, we're never truly alone. Thanks for watching PhenomenOdd. If this theory resonated with you, subscribe for more explorations into the mysteries that science is only beginning to understand. Because sometimes the most extraordinary answers hide in the places where physics meets the paranormal.